promised I would show you two ways to do edit. They're both going to use content editable, but they're going to be a little different. So this time around, I don't want it to be editable until I click an edit button. So I'm going to take content editable off of this span. I'm going to add one more button to our button group here. Button type, button, class of edit, and a class of button. And I'm going to make a child within that is an I element with a class of FA. And FA, let's see. Pencil seems legit. FA pencil. Expand that out. Gives us our button. Gives us our icon. Let's see how that looks. Of course, it screws up the width of this thing. And now I'm trying to add an event listener of null on line 123. Remember what that's going to be? I'm looking for content editable, and it's not there. So we can comment these out. Refresh. And now this darn thing's too wide. So that is because of our calculation here. The student name gets 100% the width of its container minus 195 pixels, which is just enough room to account for the padding and all of these buttons. That is no longer sufficient. I'm going to change it to 255, not 1255. Refresh. Let's have a look. That seems about right. It could be a tad wider, but I'm happy with that. Now let's make it do something. Button edit. When we click it, let's have it call a function called edit. This.edit. We'll need to bind it to this, and we'll pass in we could pass in the student, but I kind of think what we really need is the LI. We could get that from the button again, or I could just pass it in as an argument. Pass in the student thing, and let's pass in a third one. That is li.querySelector .student. That's the li itself. So we could have been doing this all along instead of always getting it from the using closest. So this time around, I'll just do it this way. I'll pass in the actual li. Or student name, sorry, rather, the span, the thing we want to make editable, right? Otherwise, what I'd have to do is use closest to find the li, then find a child that matches that. So let's just save ourselves some trouble and do it here. So that means edit is going to receive the student and the thing that I want to make editable, call it name field. And it's still going to receive an event as the last argument. So let's see. What I want to do is if content is editable right now, make it not editable anymore and vice versa. So how can I do that? Throw a quick debugger in here. Click the edit button. It pauses. And I should have this student or name field. Should be the span. Yep. So let's see. Content editable. Ooh, is content editable. Content editable will give us the actual attribute, which right now is inherit. That is the default, by the way. True and false, if you want to make sure you know what it is, but it's inherit by default. But I don't need to check whether it's inherit, because I can do is content editable and always get a Boolean. So let's say if name field dot is content editable, let's set it to false. Name field dot not is now. Is always just returns the Boolean. So let's make it content editable equals false. Else name field content editable equals true. Now, if that were all we were doing, we could just say name field content editable equals not name field is content editable. But we are going to do some more than that, so I'll do it this way. Let's see if we get that much. Refresh. Right now it's not editable. If I click in here, nothing happens. Click this button. Now it works. Now it's off again. Not so much. Stop being editable, you jerk. If is content editable, name field dot content editable equals false. Not editable. Click it. Editable. Click it again. What gives? This is bull crap. There we go. Now it's going to do what we expect. So let's see here. Name field dot is content editable is false. Now it should be true. Let's click it again. I get true. So we should be hitting the else. Or no, we should be hitting the if. If is content editable, name field content editable, false. Should happen next. Now if we hit it again, still true. It didn't set it back to false. Interesting. Content editable true. We just changed it to false. No, not name field. $0. Oh, no, I got refreshed. Well, I could probably use set attribute, but I kind of expected this to work. Name field, set attribute, content editable, false. Well, it is. What's that? Oh, up here. Thank you. There. That's better. It's hitting the else every time. Thank you. I sure thought that was supposed to work. Now, tappity tappity, click it again. Yeah, not editable. But it still gives me this this hover effect. So now I suppose this rule should say equals true. So that that doesn't happen while it's not editable. Now hover does nothing. Now hover does something. All right, I can take the debugger out. Thank you for that. Now it'd be nice if when we hit the button and it became editable, it stuck our cursor in there, focused it for us automatically. We can do that. Set content editable to true and say name field dot focus. Fresh. Now when I click edit, my cursor goes in there. That's nice. What else could we do? When are we going to save? Still just when it blurs? We no longer have an event listener for that because it didn't have content editable at the time. So we could actually add the event listener inside this else, or we could do something else. We can make it so that when you click the button again, it makes the save. But if we're going to do that, we should probably change the appearance of this button because it still just looks like an edit button. It should turn into a save button. So let's see about doing that. So we're going to need to find that button, which should be the target, right? Const btn equals ev.target. Let's see if that's true. Refresh. Click. Look at that. The target was the eye, the icon. Why? So I've been lying to you just a little bit about how target works. Target is not necessarily the event that you attached the event listener to. It's the item that actually fired the event. So what we clicked on was specifically this icon. And because that's inside the button, that's adequate for firing the event. There's something called bubbling. The events bubble up the DOM. So the thing that you did, if there's an event listener attached to that, then that event listener fires. Then it goes on and checks whether its parent had an event listener for the same event. Because we clicked specifically on the icon inside the button. That still counts as clicking the button. Now we can prevent that. We can say stop propagation, just like prevent default. But more importantly, how do we actually get the thing that I attach the event listener to? There's another property called current target. And current target will always be the thing that you actually added the event listener to. So that will be the button. Refresh, click, and again, make sure I click right on the icon, and I still get the button for current target. So current target is often what you want. Now this is when we're dealing with the actual DOM. Frameworks and libraries may break the rules here a little bit, but this is what we want. So now we need to find the icon too. So let's look within the button. Button.querySelector. And we'll look for i.fa. That ought to do it. So if it is content editable, set it to false. Otherwise, this is when we're making it editable. So when we make it editable, we want to change that icon. So let's say button add class, or not add, we don't have that, class list dot add success. Let's turn it green. And let's say icon class list remove FA pencil, and icon class list add FA dash, let's see if we can have a nice check mark. Of course we do. We have lots of them. I think this one is perfectly fine. FA check. See how that looks. Click edit after we refresh the page. Look at that. Yeah. So let's do the same. Let's do the opposite when it ceases to be editable. This time we will remove the check class and add the pencil class. Refresh. Doop. Now we're getting some kind of strange stuff. We need the success to be removed too, right? Let's remove the success class from the button. Yeah. So that makes it editable and not editable. However, we're still not saving it, right? So when we stop editing, let's make a change. Take Clayton away. Do that. Refresh the page. Clayton comes right back. So when we make content editable false again, we also need to save. So I'll just put this .save down here. That ought to do it anytime we stop editing. Refresh. Take the last name away. Oops. Didn't do the inner thing yet, did I? But I do that, and it's no longer editable, and we screwed it up. Why? Because we didn't say student.name equals name field text content. Right? Those were the important parts here. And since we have update name, we could just call that, I guess. Well, but that needs the event and all that stuff, so. We'll comment this out since we're doing it a different way. Now, save on enter could also be adapted to work with this. Now, what it does, though, is blur instead of... so you'd have to do a little work to make that work. But you can make that work, because the enter button right now, it does bad things. But this works now. Refresh, it's still there. Moving up still works. Moving down still works. Yep. Very good. Now let's say edit with a button. Either one of those works. You could have made this much harder, of course. There are a lot of other ways you could do it. You could make it so that when you click an edit button, it pops up a prompt and you type the new value there. You can make it so that it shows and hides an actual form that you add a submit handler to. There are all kinds of ways you could do this. Content editable is nice and easy, so that's what we demonstrated, but there would be pros and cons to doing the others too.